Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Modern Latina in Midlife. Have you ever put your entire life or a major life changing decision on pause because you were terrified of how someone else would react? Even someone you love deeply, like your spouse or your child. If so, welcome to the club. Today's episode is titled Your Codependency is Showing. Now, in full disclosure, this is actually a phrase I use with one of my dearest friends. Whenever she starts sliding into those old patterns of people pleasing or over functioning, I look at her with love and I tell her, your codependency is showing. It's our little shorthand way of bringing awareness back into the room with a little bit of humor. Now, she has given me permission to do this. She has been working on her codependency like her entire life. And she has told me, when you feel like I am falling into codependency, please point it out to me and let me know. Because sometimes it's confusing for people who fall into this codependency trap to distinguish between, is it codependency or am I just being a caring person? So recently I had a moment, I had a situation come up that I had to look in the mirror and realize that my codependency was showing big time. And it completely threw me for a loop. Now, I'm going to share with you this story now. So, what's been happening is that for the last couple of years, my boyfriend has been inviting me to move into his home. And he's mentioned that that is available to me. I mean, he created this office for me in his house a couple of years ago. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, this is where I'm recording from. And if you watch YouTube regularly or my YouTube videos regularly, you'll know that I have recorded episodes in this office before because it's been here for me for the last 2 years. So he's clearly been preparing this home for me to move in and to welcome me, and that has been beautiful. But I had a home of my own, and my son lived with me, my adult son, and it was just not time to do that. So my son moved out last September. Today is June 9th at the time of this recording. And he enlisted in the Navy. So he's off doing his training. Now, when he left, he said, Mom, I'm not going to be coming home very often anymore. Luckily for us, he is stationed nearby in San Diego. So he's like, if anything, I might come up to visit you once a month. But you do understand, he says, that I'm not going to come live with you anymore. I said, yeah, I understand. I fully knew what that meant. He's 23 years old. So, of course, I get it. And I was looking forward to really living by myself and having that experience of what that is like. And it's been an interesting journey. I'm not going to lie. This whole empty nester thing syndrome is real. I had some moments. If you follow me on social media, you'll see that I recorded a couple of reels that were really tough for me because I was like, okay, what do I do with myself? Like, even though I was expecting it, and even though it was a welcomed surprise when he told me that he had enlisted and he was leaving, I was like, okay, this is the natural course of life. This is how things are supposed to happen. I've done my job. And well, I might add, I had a difficult time. But anyway, so that went on. I went through my journey, through my emotions, through my feelings, experienced what it was like to live by myself, attempted to create my office in his old bedroom. Anyways, I went through all that, and I've shared a little bit about that journey on the podcast here as well. But what's been coming up for me a lot lately, and I worked with my coach on this, is there's been this really deep anger and regret that's been coming through for me around not owning my own home. Now, I've owned my own houses in the past when I was married, And I had to give those up when we got divorced because he wanted his share of it, of course, and I get that. And I really wanted to keep the house. I really wanted to raise the kids in the house and have that home. And of course, it was right for me to buy him out. I just couldn't afford it at that time. And so I had asked to give me a year or two to be able to get there. And that just was not something that he wanted to or was willing to or able to do at the time. And so that didn't happen. Now, the big regret that comes in for me lately, that has been coming up for me, and what I was finding a difficult time forgiving myself for, was not having reached out to more people that could have helped me through that process of maybe getting creative. Like, what could I have done? Could I have kept the house and rented it out to somebody else? Could I have rented out a room? Could I have, like, what else could I have done to have made that work? And I wish that I had reached out to some people that might have helped me get creative or figure out a way to make it happen or figure out a way to buy him out. Anyways, I had a 401k. Could I have just pulled money out? And anyways, there's so much frustration around that was coming through for me. And I was really having a hard time letting go of that anger. Also, with that is I was in a second relationship where we had remodeled the house, and that house was not mine. That house was his. But when we moved in together and blended our families, and my sons and his son, they all came to live with us. And so we had to remodel the house and make it larger. And so we did that. And when our relationship ended, I walked away from it with absolutely nothing, even though I did contribute to that home, that household. And I had no right to that house. And so I walked away with nothing, and as it should have been. That's exactly how it should have been. I had no ties to that house on paper. What really pissed me off was that, I don't know, maybe a year or two after I moved out, he lost that house. And I knew that the payment on that house for the remodel, because the house was paid off when I moved in, but we incurred a mortgage in order to make the remodels to that home. And the payment on that remodel was less than the rent that I was paying on the apartment that I moved into after I left. And so it made me so mad that he couldn't just reach out to me to see if maybe I wanted to keep making the payments on that house and stay in that house. It just made me mad that here I was paying more money to live in an apartment where I could have just stayed in this house and just continue paying the mortgage myself. And so there was all this anger pent up, and I really was tired of having this anger and this frustration and this shame and guilt around not owning a home, and how these situations contributed, plus some more stuff of obviously that was entangled with all of that, specifically with my ex-husband, that didn't make it any easier for me or contributed to the difficulty of me being able to buy a home. But anyway, I'm not getting into the details of that, but just to paint that picture of, I was just really having this really big frustration around not being in a situation where I own a home yet for myself, and not being able to forgive myself. And I'm just so tired of carrying that weight and that anger and the shame and the frustration. And I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of it. And consciously, I knew that, yet I haven't been able to break that out on my own, to self-coach myself out of it and to really have a breakthrough. So I worked with my coach. I had a really big and beautiful and powerful session with her in March around this. And man, wow, like I clearly remember that day and just what went through my head and just what a beautiful breakthrough I had. Of course, there was a lot of energy moved. We removed a block energetically and through coaching and et cetera, et cetera. And it was really profound and beautiful. Every time I have a breakthrough like this, where I clear a block, an energetic block, self-coach through something of this, or not just self-coach, but have someone coach me through something like this, I have big manifestations come through on the other end. And so I had some manifestations come through around finances, around things and opportunities and trips and stuff like that, that I'm not going to get into at this point, but I do know that those happen. So I moved on. I had a really big breakthrough, a really big release on that. And then recently, I was still feeling like, okay, there's still this piece of forgiveness that I haven't been able to get through. So I did another coaching session with her and she walked me through that. And I worked through that and that all was amazing. And it was a beautiful breakthrough. Now, I've done self-coaching around this before. What she coached me through was very similar to what I coached myself through. But just, I almost feel like working with somebody else and somebody else witnessing you and acknowledging that has such profound impact. And that's what happened for me. So I worked through that, and that was another beautiful session. So I had these two beautiful sessions. What I realized that after this happened, I had this realization of, okay, how am I going to own property again? It's gotten so expensive and it's so different now. It's just me on a single income. How am I going to make this work? Of course, I have been increasing my income significantly for the last 2 to 3 years. So that obviously that's helping. And yet I'm paying X amount of money for rent and my utilities alone on this little house are $500 a month just because this is an old 1925 home. It's not insulated. It has drafts on the windows and the doors, et cetera, et cetera. And then I had this moment of, oh, well, maybe it's time I move in with my boyfriend. First of all, we have such a great time together. We have so much fun. We love each other. We love each other's company. I miss him dearly every time I leave his house to go home. I usually would go to his house on the weekends and then I'd leave Sunday night or Monday night. And I miss him dearly. And then I just go back home to just work throughout the week and clean the house and water my plants and do my laundry. And then I come right back on Friday or Saturday. And the other thing that's happening is that I am tired of packing my bags every single weekend to come and stay at his place and then pack my stuff back up to go back home. It just has become so cumbersome and I'm over it. And so I thought, you know what? Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time I move in with him. Why not? Like I enjoy it. He completely remodeled the house here too to just really freshen it up and bring it up to date and completely painted everything wall and installed new flooring and we bought new furniture and like completely redecorated the entire house. The kitchen is redone and he's in the process of redoing the backyard and adding a pool and all these things. And I'm like, wow, I'm never going to want to leave. And then I thought, well, then maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't leave. And everything I'm paying in rent, then I can literally in a year be ready to make an investment. And with this investment, I have a lot of plans for my sons, but also for us, for my boyfriend and I. whether this becomes a rental or an Airbnb or who knows. Like there's a lot of opportunity for us. We love to travel, my boyfriend and I. So this can be a rental that could bring in cash to fund our travels. Anyways, there's all these ideas and great things going through my head. Now, mind you, my boyfriend had already proposed this to me before, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe. But in this moment, I felt like, yeah, this makes so much sense. Of course. Of course, let's do this. And then I thought, wow, that was such a different feeling. And it has to do with the fact that I was coached through it. And these blocks that I had inside had been released. So it was showing up in this way. But there was this little part of me that I wanted to make sure that my sons were okay with it. Neither of my sons live with me. They're grown ass adults. My oldest is 29 years old. He lives out in Washington. My younger son is 24 years old now. He's off in the military and doing his training. Talking about buying his own home already. And I'm like, why do I care? And I had mentioned it to my older son. He's like, this is great. This is so awesome for you. I'm so excited for you. Mentioned it to my younger son, and he's like, oh, that's great. And I'm no longer going to have a home to come home to. And I felt this guilt, like a dagger, come through my heart. And I was like, oh. And I started to question myself. And is this the right thing to do? And oh no, he's not upset, but like, oh my gosh, like he doesn't have a home to call his own. But that's the whole point. Like, this is what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to buy real estate so that one day I can't just have a home, a retirement home that I can say, this is literally yours once I'm gone. And so this is the place that you call home. This is the place that you call, like your homeroom, right? Like this is where you go home to always. Like this is where you're going to find like your place, right? Because I have that. I have that. My home that I grew up in, my mom still lives in it. And anytime I need to, I can quote unquote go home to her in this home that is so familiar. And even to my kids, it's very familiar. And so I started having these weird feelings around moving in with my boyfriend and giving up that house that he's called home for the last 4 years because I've been renting it for the last 4 years. And then I had a realization. I felt like my codependency was showing. And it was a real aha moment for me. I was hanging my decision to do something I know is not only in my highest good, but ultimately in the highest good for my sons as well, because of what I planned to do with this real estate, on whether my son was okay or not. And I was astonished at my own behavior. It's sometimes most difficult to recognize in ourselves the very things that we can so easily identify in others. So my jaw dropped when I had this awareness. And I got to work on it, on overcoming it, on that doesn't mean that I'm going to get rid of this feeling or this codependency, if you will, but it's something that definitely needs attention, that is asking for my attention, that I need to work through running my decisions through this filter. And in that moment, I was only okay if he was okay. And for me, that is a sign of codependency. So today, I'm going to strip away the clinical definition and looking at what codependency actually feels like in everyday life, especially the subtle, covert ways that it sneaks into our choices daily and how to start untangling ourselves from it. So let's clear the air for a second because the word codependency gets thrown around a lot these days. When most people hear it, they think of the extreme cliches. They picture someone who is incredibly needy or someone trapped in a visibly toxic, dramatic relationship. When you hear the word codependent, you might think of a grown adult who asks for permission to go see a friend or to make a purchase, or someone who has to constantly be checking on her spouse when he's out playing golf with his friends, or even someone who feels the need to constantly check their partner's text messages or location. We look at these extreme examples and think, well, that's not me. I'm independent. I'm strong. I've got my act together. Codependency doesn't always show up this obvious. And in saying that, while I may think in my mind that these brief examples are obvious, you may be listening to this and thinking this hadn't registered for you as behavior that is codependent. But it is. And also, for most of us in our everyday lives, it is much quieter, much more subtle, and much more highly functional than this. If we strip away the clinical jargon, here is the practical definition of what codependency actually is. It is a consistent pattern of prioritizing other people's needs, other people's emotions, and their perceived stability at the absolute expense of your own truth, your own desires, and your own well-being. It's like you're constantly checking the emotional weather forecast of everyone else in the house before deciding what you are allowed to want, to say, or to do. Let that settle in. I'm going to repeat this because it is very impactful. It is like you are constantly checking the emotional weather forecast of everyone else in the house before deciding what you are allowed to want, say, or do. If you are listening to this right now and the little pit is forming in your stomach because this sounds familiar, please take a deep breath and hold yourself with immense compassion. I've been there too. And today I'm sharing how codependency is still showing up for me today. So please feel no shame. This behavior didn't come out of nowhere. And it doesn't mean that you are broken or that I am broken, that there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with me or that you have to live this way for the rest of your life. At its core, codependency is a learned survival mechanism. It's a coping strategy that we develop somewhere along the way to keep the peace, manage the anxiety in our environments, and maintain a sense of control. So let's dive deeper into the root of codependency. When I say codependency is a learned survival mechanism, I mean your body literally wired itself to believe that other people's emotional states were a matter of life or death. Think about it. Somewhere in your past, whether it was in your childhood home, a past relationship, or a specific season of chaos, you learned that if the people around you were angry, volatile, or sinking into despair, your world would become unsafe. I would dare say that this was developed in childhood and confirmed in your relationships and other experiences while growing up. Because when we don't grow up with codependency, we learn to spot it and we walk away from it. So when people around you got angry, volatile, or became anxious or went into despair, what did you do? You did what any smart, adaptive human being would do to survive. You developed an incredibly sharp, hypervigilant emotional radar. You became a master at reading the room. You learned how to interpret the exact volume of a sigh, the specific weight of someone's footsteps down the hall, or the micro expressions on the face before a single word was even spoken. Your nervous system learned to scan the environment and say, okay, if they are stressed, I'm in danger. So my job is to fix their stress so that my body can finally relax. That is where the need for control sneakily slides into our lives. We don't think of ourselves as controlling people. In fact, we think we're just being lovable or loving, I should say, flexible and supportive. But underneath that support is a subconscious calculation. If I can control your mood, if I can prevent you from feeling upset, if I can manage your reaction to my life choices, then I can control my own safety. This is codependency. But here is the breakthrough I had to face recently, and what I want you to really hear today. When you spend your entire life managing the anxiety of the room, you aren't actually living your life. You aren't managing a simulation. You are keeping the peace externally while waging a silent war against your own truth internally. And that radar that served you so well to keep you safe in the past, it's now acting like a cage, keeping you from making the big, beautiful moves you are fully ready to make. And that's exactly what was happening for me. So before I go any further, I want to insert here what I learned from my mentor. She used to say this phrase to help me identify if I was being codependent, and that's I'm okay if you are okay. Think about it. If you ask yourself, if you are not okay with fill in the blank, will I be okay? So in my case, if my son was not okay with me giving up the rental, would I be okay? In that moment, I wasn't. So if the answer is no, then we are acting out of codependency. So let's go through some scenarios. Let's talk about emotional infiltration, feeling responsible for fixing or managing other people's moods. If they're having a bad day, you feel like you are doing something wrong or that it's your job to fix it. Maybe your child had a bad day at school and they come home upset. No one wants to see their child upset. I get it. I've been there. So you try to console them. You side with them and then you feed them ice cream to cheer them up and smooth things out. You want to see them happy and you want to see them smile at all costs. You are uncomfortable witnessing their uncomfortable emotions. You're uncomfortable witnessing them fall apart. It breaks you. So you want to make them better so that you can feel better. You feel the need to fix it. I am okay if you're okay. You are okay if your child is okay. Now, let's give you another scenario. The preemptive strike decision making. Making life choices based on how you anticipate someone else will react rather than what is authentic and right for you. This is where I fell. Let's say you want to take a course that will be happening once a week in the evenings for 2 hours, right around dinner time. And you get a feeling your spouse will be upset because you won't be home during dinner with the family. And so you decide against taking the course that you really, really want to take because you don't want to upset him or the family. Or you come up with a plan to ease things over with your spouse. I'll make sure dinner's ready so it's ready for you to just very easy for you to grab. Or I'll make it up to you. You should go out and play with your friends, play golf an extra day this week. Or whatever scheme you think will be necessary to ease things over to get the okay, to get the buy-in. Again, I'm okay if you're okay. If they're not okay, then you feel a certain way. You feel like you're not going to take the course because they're not okay with you not being home to serve dinner. Overfunctioning for others is another example. Doing things for people, especially adult or near adult children or partners, that they are fully capable of doing for themselves under the guise of just being helpful. This is a big one. In many Mexican households like mine, especially with male sons, mothers tend to do everything for their family. Even if they have a full-time job, they're expected to do everything, all the household chores and the cooking and the laundry and the grocery shopping, and the list goes on. This actually applies to many women, not just Mexican women, but What tends to be a very Latino household truth is mothers catering to their adult sons indefinitely. We are conditioned this way. We grow up watching them do this and we get conditioned to this. Here's an example of a time that I caught myself reacting from this conditioning. It was Thanksgiving and we were having a very small gathering at my mom's house. It was my mom, my sister, myself, my brother, and his wife. That was it. All our kids were elsewhere. Who knows where? I can't even, they're all adults. So what does it matter, right? So I arrived first. I think my sister and I arrived together, actually. So it's my mom, my sister, and I, and then my brother and his wife get there. And, I'm breaking out with like cocktails and just trying to decide, okay, should we have wine? Should we have cocktails? Like I'm trying to like kind of figure it out and make something for us. And immediately I turn around to my brother. I'm like, well, what do you want? What do you want to drink? And I caught myself in the moment going, what am I asking him? What he wants to drink? Why didn't I ask my mom? The intention that I had in that moment is like, whatever he decides, I will make for everybody. And I thought, wait a minute. Why was my go-to to ask the only male in the room what he wanted to drink so that I can decide what cocktail I was going to make for everybody else? No, 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 no. I caught myself in that moment and I thought, wow. I even said it out loud. I was like, you know what? Scratch that. I'm like, and I asked my sister, what do you want to drink? Like, why am I asking the only man in that house what he wants to drink to make the decision about what everybody else is going to have? That is conditioning that I just had in my body. And I caught myself. But in that moment, I was falling into this I'm okay if you're okay situation. That's what my mom does. She checks with the boys. She makes sure that they're okay. My sister and I, yeah, they're fine. They got to figure it out. All right, let's go with one more example. The boundary blur. Saying yes when your body is screaming no, or feeling immense guilt when you do say no. Oof, this is another big one. And when I say it's another big one, it's likely because it applies to me. How many times have you said yes or committed to something that you really didn't want to do, even though your whole body was telling you you absolutely wanted nothing to do with it? But you're afraid of offending someone, hurting their feelings, looking bad, being seen as ungrateful or selfish, etc. I know for me, it's countless times this has happened. Again, I'm okay if you're okay. It's like if you put it through this filter, you'll be able to realize or differ between, am I being caring? Is this something that I really want to do because I want to be caring? Or am I just being codependent? So what are some key signs that your codependency is showing? First, do you filter your choices through the lens of, how can I do this without upsetting anyone? 2, do you feel an underlying sense of resentment because you constantly put your own desires on the back burner? 3, do you struggle to know what you actually want when you aren't factoring in someone else's opinion or comfort? Oof, that's a good one. 4, do you mistake keeping the peace for genuine harmony? So use the phrase, I am okay if you're okay. Or am I okay doing this even if you're not okay? That should filter out if you are acting out of codependency. So how do you break out and start stepping into alignment? Break out of this codependency trap. Step 1, notice, have awareness, catch yourself in the moment of hesitation. Kind of like when I had that moment of realization, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I'm having a hard time making this move because of something my son said, which he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He's a grown ass adult. And I am too. So catch yourself in those moments. Am I making this choice out of love an alignment, or am I making it to manage their anxiety or their reaction? Step 2, allow others the dignity of their own experience. Recognize that your loved ones, including your children, are allowed to feel uncomfortable, disappointed, or even challenged by your own growth and decisions. Letting them experience their own emotions is an act of respect, and it allows them to grow through it and to work on it. That's what our souls are here to do, anyways. Step 3, regulate your nervous system. Moving out of codependency feels unsafe to a conditioned system. So practice sitting with temporary discomfort of choosing yourself. It's okay. And step 4, radical truth telling. Start small. State your needs and desires clearly without over explaining, apologizing, or negotiating your right to want what you want. This is a boundary. And we'll do another podcast episode on boundaries. So these are the steps to start breaking out of this codependency trap. Now, I realize it may not be easy. Nobody said it would. I mean, especially if we've been living this way our entire lives. So choosing your own next chapter, whether that's a move, a business pivot, or a boundary, doesn't mean you love your family any less. It means you love them enough to show them what an authentic, self-honoring life looks like. So I'm going to ask you today, screenshot this episode, share it on social media, tag me on it, and share with me, what is one of the covert signs of codependency that resonated with you the most? Or maybe something that you have broken through. And if you are in a place where you want to work with somebody to break through some of these codependency traits that potentially are showing up for you, or want to get clear on, hey, is this a codependency trait? Am I acting out of codependency? If there's something that you're transitioning through right now, book a complimentary consultation with me and let's talk about what that looks like. Let's help you walk away with the clarity of whether you're acting from codependency or not and how we start to break through that. You can do that at bluechakrastudio.com/consultation. Thank you so much for being here. Share this with somebody you think might benefit from it. And one more ask. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, please, and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. It helps so many more women in midlife find this podcast and start to live from a place of empowerment and alignment. Thank you so much for being here. Hasta la próxima.